Here is how the shot looked like, and this is how the final shot looks like. In this video, I am going to be sharing my thought processes on how I decide on camera angles. For full disclosure, this shot you see here was actually taken with the Blackmagic Pocket 6K. I shot this with a 24mm lens, and the footage was actually shot in RAW. Now, let's get into this. One of the major things I do before I decide on an angle is to first of all ask myself, how will an ordinary person shoot this shot? That is the first thing I ask myself. Then after determining how an ordinary person would shoot it, I now ask myself, how would I shoot it? Or how would another genius or how would somebody else shoot this thing for me to feel like this shot is well composed or this shot actually fits the situation? That is the question I ask myself before I actually start. Because remember, there is no point to repeating or doing things that would not fall in line with your story or just shooting for shooting's sake. Keep this at the back of your mind as we are getting into some tips on how you decide on camera angles. Lens selection is very important in how your final image looks like. Over here, I wanted this classroom to actually feel very big, hence I decided to shoot on a 24mm lens. This would have looked slightly different if I had used another type of lens because the background and the subject would have felt very close. But in this case, I wanted us to see that the classroom is very large. Hence, I used a 24mm lens. And if you look closely at these areas, you realize that the background is a little bit blurred. How I achieved this was that now I decided to get the camera also very close to the subject. Because 24mm is kind of wide, mostly every filmmaker or most filmmakers will prefer to use this for at least medium or kind of wide shots. So I decided to still use it for this kind of medium close-up. By coming close, you will still be able to get the blur, but at the same time, still able to represent the scale of the classroom. Hence, I was still able to get a blur background by shooting at a very low f-stop number. Once I close the gap between the camera and the subject is a little bit far away from the background, I'm still able to get it to look blur as it is right now. Another major thing you need to consider when deciding on your camera angle is the height of the camera. This camera is placed almost at the level of the tables. This is important because if I had held this camera up high, the people will kind of look small because the camera is looking from up to down, so the people look kind of vulnerable. But in this case, I wanted the child to stand out and I wanted him to still look big and kind of like in control of the situation. So I placed the camera almost below eye level. At this point, I was kneeling on the ground whilst holding the camera. And this is something that if you want to take the best shots and always have your characters looking big or in control of the situation, always shoot below eye level. Don't be lazy, guys. Always go down because it is always worth it at the end. Now, the other thing I considered here is lighting. Now, this is very important, guys. This probably would have been the first thing to even consider before getting here, but I'm just quick to also add that I'm sharing these tips not in any chronological order. Lighting, as you can see, was pretty much very basic in this particular shot. However, it's still following the very basic rules in deciding which angle I'm shooting from. We can see a giant window over there, and everything here is actually natural light. Hence, there is light coming from the window, and as we can see, it's hitting this side of our subject, creating a rim separating him from the background. Hence, this side of the face is a little bit dark, and I decided to shoot from there. In the filmmaking world, this is actually called upstage lighting. So the camera is often placed at the shadowy side of the face while shooting into the light side. So looking at the fact that I didn't have any artificial lighting and had to rely on natural lights, I had to look at the direction of the light, and that also informed me to shoot from this direction so that I can still have the shot looking very cinematic. Hence, you must be very intentional with everything. In most cases, if we're using artificial light, I would still prefer to have this window there so that when any light is coming from this direction and hitting him, it makes sense that everybody thinks that the light is coming from the window. But in this case, I intentionally had that window in shot just to actually still further emphasize that the light is coming from there. And in this case, truly, the light was actually coming from that window. The last thought process that went into deciding this angle is the fact that Even though this shot, as you see at this particular point in time, looks very nice, I felt like it was very flat. Yes, this could pass as a very decent shot. However, what I decided to do was I had to move the camera this way, and at this particular point in time, now that the camera has moved, you can see that it kind of feels a little bit better. And that is because we are making use of something called leading lines. As you can see, far off in the distance, there's a line here that runs through. And first of all, it helps to establish depth in the shot. And at the same time, if we are ever distracted, this line naturally leads our eyes to the subject. So there are other lines also. If you look at the other side of the screen, the line moves you this way. If you look at this side too, again, the line moves you this way. So this is also one of the major techniques, or one of the ways, or one of the things that influences where I place my camera. At the end of the day, all these things must work together to help you achieve your intended results. Now, you realize that by shooting from this particular angle, it helps establish the depth and also let us see how big the room is. Hence, we are using the leading lines, and it's complementing even the kind of lens we are using, because all those things are helping us see the scale of this place whilst maintaining the blur and the lighting and everything. Hence, in as much as I explain this as separate points, you realize that everything is working in tandem for you to get the final intended shot to look very cinematic. However, let me also be quick to add that please keep it in mind that angles is what makes up your cinematic language. In film, a close-up means something different, a medium shot means something different, a long shot, and even moving the camera in terms of using a dolly or whatever movement or handheld movement, please always keep it in mind that everything has a meaning. Hence, story is king. Before you even decide on an angle, you need to ask yourself what your shot is all about. What do you intend to convey with this particular shot? So, do not just shoot them because they are pretty images, but make sure that any angle you are deciding on is working together to achieve the intended emotion that you want to send across to your audience. We really had fun shooting this documentary. It is actually a video for an organization called School for Life, and I'll definitely ask the producers if we can have links to the final video if you are watching this in the near future. Apart from this shot, the whole shoot day was a very interesting one, and we also decided to do some actual long takes. Now, this long take you see here was partially planned. However, sometimes it's just good to experiment and allow things to flow. Even though I placed a subject in there, we just decided to go outside and get one long take and see whether we can use it in the final shot. And as you can see, it's kind of like very decent. Let me give you the opportunity to watch the full shot, how it looks like.
I can do.
Yeah, I think it kind of worked very well, except for this last end when the lady turns to look at me. And of course, when the camera was also going in, I decided to open the gate myself at this particular point in time. Hence, it delayed the shot a little bit. But one way, in fact, if this will make it into the final film, we're still going to add some level of stabilization because I can see a little bit of shakes here and there. And even the pause at the gate, if we are able to electronically help stabilize the shot and make it more smooth, I'm sure this shot is going to look very awesome. Beside this long take, as you can see in these shots over here, I did speak about the issue of camera height. You can see that because the woman is actually sitting, and I knew the small girl character would also come and squat, I had to go down to this particular level to get this shot to look very cinematic. This is how the final shot actually looks like from the camera. So just keep it in mind that there are no major shortcuts to getting the most cinematic footage. Just take your time. Do not rush the process. So that is it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to click the like button because it goes a long way in helping other people discover this channel right here on YouTube. And if this is your first time here, this is Africa Amaze channel. Over here, we do talk about cinematography, photography, editing, and all its related branches. If all this sounds interesting, I do much appreciate it if you do click on the subscribe button. Please make sure to turn on the post notification bell so you are notified anytime I drop awesome content like this right here from the continent of Africa. I would certainly catch you in this video where I talk about sound. Till next time, as always, keep practicing filmmaking. Peace out.